Alright, Shalom. Before I start, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakbarash, double honors to the elders and apostles, great millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all the elect Akim, Wa Akwath, learning and teaching in truth and sincerity. Another video through the Spirit, your brother Malak from GMS Detroit. A lot of stuff going on in the world right now. One of the big ones, right, obviously this Trump, this tariff stuff is happening. This is a modern day madness with prophecies. I just got different clips. Amalek is shredding them babies over there. Jake is getting, Jake is mad because they might have to go through segregation again. So there's a lot going on. You know what? Let me deal with some of that segregation. All right, and it's funny. Our people shouldn't be surprised. Esau's about to enact his NWO, so it should be no surprise that he doesn't want to invite you nigga bears, right? And this is a very short time ago where we weren't even allowed to sit near them, and they weren't allowed to be around us. So our people are up in shock that Edom is coming at them sideways, but the scriptures tell you what: never trust thine enemy. So.
Baby, I got you too. Look at TikTok. Nigga. Look.
Rita.
Nigga. Look.
Rita.
What? Nigga.
Rita.
Nigga. Crackhead.
Rita, will you
I got
stop
it
this in
too.
front of the kids?
Well, move them.
Move yourself.
Move yourself.
Hold
I live
your
here.
tongue.
I live here. She don't.
Hold your tongue.
I live here.
Yeah, she lives here. She lives
Act
here.
like an
She lives
adult.
here.
Why?
That's enough, mother. That's enough. That's enough.
Because
Stop.
every freaking car.
Stop.
That's enough.
Stop.
For her. She's a crackhead.
Stop.
I got you too, baby. I got you too. Look at TikTok. Nigga. Look.
Rita.
Nigga. Look.
So, she has a so-called black grandchild, and she's still being so-called, bigoted, right? And this isn't nothing new, but with Daddy Trump in office, they're beginning to feel more liberated. That ancient hatred is being shown openly. That's another one. I'll come back to that one in a second, if not another video. Let me get this. This comment's funny right here.
Every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning? If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that,
No.
you know what I mean? Like, but I'm saying that
There's more jobs to be
in LA, they always,
but
they don't.
Latinos are not only the
No,
only people
I didn't mean it
doing
like that. Come on. No, I would never mean it like that. If you kick
She did mean it like that. She said what she said, and she meant what she said. She got caught slacking. If I have to edit this part out, basically, if it cuts, it takes this part of the video. She said, if you kick all the Latinos out the country, who's going to clean your toilets, Trump? And she thought she found herself doing something cute, but it just really showed her inner, so-called racism, right? They believe that that's all that you're here for, is to serve them. Edom remembers his position. You niggas have forgotten your position. Let me get this.
A lot of angry, hurtful things.
The pictures and the videos that you see of Elizabeth walking, she's actually trying to get to the next bus stop to get away from these.
I concentrated on getting to that bus stop.
She had to wait for the bus, sitting all alone on a bench with all these crazy people surrounding her, spewing insults, threats, and slurs. But here's something heartwarming and interesting. When you look over all the images from that day, you see Elizabeth, the angry protesters, the reporters, but this one caught my eye. Who is this middle-aged white woman in this checkered dress? More importantly, why does it look like she's got her arms over the shoulders of Elizabeth?
I heard a woman talking to the demonstrators, and she said that they should be ashamed of what they were doing, and that she wanted her little girl to go to school with Negro boys and girls.
Y'all, this was not that long ago. Some of these people are still alive.
That outraged them, increased their anger.
That woman's name is Grace Lorch. She is one of those people who completely get left out of the story. But her actions that day changed hers and her family's whole life forever. Grace sat next to her until the bus came, led her through the crowd to get on the bus, and even rode on the bus with her.
Got on the bus with me, and two teenage boys tried to get on the bus. She kicked them back. The driver slammed the door and drove away quickly.
Her name, phone number, and address got published in the White Citizens Council newsletter for what she did that day. And immediately, they began to face harassment, death threats, rocks being thrown through their windows, people burning crosses in their front yards, planted explosives in their garage. Lee, Grace's husband, he lost his job as a math professor.
I became completely unemployable.
And their daughter Alice, state and federal officers began investigating them for communist
What
activity.
they were trying to do is discredit anybody who would oppose segregation.
Ended up having to move to Canada. The Attorney General of Arkansas reported to the Canadian authorities about them being communist. They still suffered at the hands of these southern racists. They never returned to the United States.
My family and I have done some things that had to be done.
Hey, and so we see that, these people were antagonized by their own fellow Edomite kind for showing a millimeter of compassion to some niggas, right, in their eyes. And so what this goes to show you, y'all, is simply put that ancient hatred, and that hatred is coming back, all right, full and healthy. And Esau, Edom is going to, you had that stabbing that happened between that young Jake at that track meet and that that Edomite. That's helping revive that spirit, y'all. Let's go to, I believe it's Ezekiel. Yep, 35. I was tripping, not 25. Ezekiel 35:5. All right, we know that this is dealing with Edom, right? Read up, look at verse 3. So verse 5 says, "Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end." So these people have always had a disliking towards the Israelites. All right, the so-called white man has never liked the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And like Muhammad Ali said, we're in the actual Edomites, right? We're not dealing with Israelite foreigners. If you jump into a pit of 1,000 snakes, you're not going to be looking for the 5 that aren't going to bite you. You're trying to avoid the other 995 that are trying to bite you. All right, so just because one helped on the bus, what's that one compared to the thousands that, she was surrounded by, and which niggas shouldn't be trying to integrate any daggone way. But this just goes to show you the scenario that we are in dealing with them. And now that, that this sentiment is being revived in the modern era, we're seeing that hatred flow openly. Right here, this picture says in 1781, over 100 enslaved Africans, which were Israelites, not Africans, it says were thrown overboard so that the slaves could cash in on the insurance of those enslaved. It is known as the Zong Massacre. So just a little bit of piece of history. This is how they're used to dealing with us. This modern era, politically correctness, all that shit is going out the window. We're stepping into the real world, us versus them. I got one clip that I'm going to play off of YouTube. 'Cause like I said, Trump, he's getting rid of, or he's put certain legal statements out there that invite or re-invite segregation. We're going to see, in the coming future, how well it takes. Let me get this. God damn it.
Did you know that you were? And she says, hey, guess what? And I'm like, what? She's like, did you know that you were cursed? And I was like, what? She's like, cursed. I said, cursed with what? She's like, skin, black skin. And I was like, what?
At a party?
Yeah,
Like,
at a
that's
party,
great
in front of everybody, in front of everybody. Yeah, but it's okay because you chose to be cursed. And this is fine because, and I'm just sitting here going, she goes, Cain and Abel, it's like Cain was black. And he wasn't before, but because he killed his brother and he was bad and was hiding from God, they put a skin of blackness on him, the mark. You know how the mark of Cain? I said, that's not what it says. And she's like, yes, it is. Because we have modern revelation that explains what the mark was. I was like, okay, because the Bible doesn't say that it was a skin of blackness. It says a mark. She's like, yeah, but modern revelation through our prophets tell us that it was black skin. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, and so you're cursed with that skin. But it's okay. Because as you prove yourself, your trial of your faith, after this life, you're going to be white. And she says,
so they hate you on a political standpoint. They hate you in a religious standpoint. These motherfuckers came up with a whole religion to lie and twist that scripture. It's actually funny because, in elders, apostles, brothers have broken down that mark in Genesis. It's actually the opposite. It's the same word for sign in Exodus that Moses had the sign where his hand turned white. So leprous, so-called white pale skin is actually the curse, not our dark skin. Dark skin, melanated people make up the majority of the planet Earth. They have it the other way around, but they're willing to bend and twist scripture to try to come up with a belief. Why? Because they hate you. Jacob, what part of this did you not understand? Let me get one more clip.
Can you please tell?
And I'm pulling this one because this is an old clip, right? They're still running with these same talking points to this day.
Tell me why it's blacks who are killing hundreds of thousands of blacks in Rwanda and other places? And can you please tell me why from Haiti, blacks from Haiti are just risking their lives to come here to the United States of America?
I'll tell you if I get a chance. Black people have been robbed, as I said earlier, of a knowledge of self. And when you rob people, sir, of a knowledge of self, then it means that they start to take on the characteristics and the nature of their oppressor and their colonizer. And his mind, by automatic, systematic, remote control, rules in our people. He gives them the guns and the weapons and the drugs and the alcohol, the way you did our brothers, the red man and the red woman, brothers and sisters, the way you did our Latino brothers and sisters, and then you pit one against the other and then say, look at what these people are doing.
So, that same tired rhetoric, oh, well, black people kill black people, which, niggas do. But once again, hey, and like, Khalid Muhammad, when she used to come learn from the apostles, if you ever listen to the apostles' testimony and whatnot, he would come to the school of One West to get info for these debates. But Esau Edom created the mindset of the modern day niggas, to pit them towards one another. So we see that we're just two people at odds. We've been at odds for all this time, thousands of years. And why? Because it's biblical prophecy. And see, the past couple decades went by, and you've been able to go get ice cream with your white neighbor, or go have a so-called mixed child, And so our people believe that hatred went away, that you had a fair shot, equal opportunity in this country and in this world, and you do not. It is biblical prophecy that our two bloodlines will be at odds with one another. Genesis 3:15, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou, it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Now, we know that this was being said originally to the serpent and the woman. Who would this come down to in the line? Jacob and Esau. Right? That this is a future prophecy. The fact that the seed of Edom, which is the seed of the serpent, right, spiritually, the spirit that was in the serpent went into the Cain, the spirit that was in Cain went into Edom, and the spirit of the seed of the woman is referring to the chosen bloodline, right? Women don't carry seed through Adam. Adam is the father eventually of Noah. Noah eventually is the father of Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. So the two bloodlines would always be at odds, the righteous versus the wicked, and that did not change today. They have wounded us in the heel, they took us down for the time, and eventually we're going to wound them in the head, meaning what? We're going to completely destroy their empire at the return of our Lord Yahweh Shai. But until then, we're going to be at enmity with one another. What does enmity mean? Let's take a look. You know, a lot of niggas, they're all bent out of shape and hurt. Oh, how could you? What do you mean, how could you? This is how they've always treated us. They haven't deviated from this prophecy. Some of you niggas are trying to deviate from the prophecy. They don't like you, and they remind you. And Trump, throwing up some of these laws is just a reminder. Enmity, hostile feeling, rivalry, malice, internal conflict. The so-called white man, is the rivals of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. The Edomites are the rivals of the Israelites. That is indisputable. And all of our treatment and all the things that they've done to us, you can clearly see it every day, every way. Right here, it says Black Americans are not surprised. It says Christina Greer on Trump's attacks on students, DEI, and history. Right, so once again, this DEI thing, Esau wants to get rid of you niggas' history. Then they'll have leeway to get rid of you. So them, trying to terminate your doings and accomplishments, it's just further proof that they hate you.
.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. The National Park Service Monday appeared to have restored its original webpage on the history of the Underground Railroad following a backlash over its deletion of a prominent image of abolitionist Harriet Tubman, as well as edits to the text that minimize the horrors of slavery, instead talking about white-black cooperation. A Washington Post investigation published Sunday found in the weeks following Trump's inauguration, Tubman's photograph had been removed and replaced with images of Postal Service stamps that highlighted this black-white cooperation. Late last month, President Trump issued an executive order titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, which claims the Smithsonian's museums have come under, quote, the influence of a divisive race-centered ideology, unquote. The order singles out the National Museum of African American.
So, they're just straight up, swapping out history at this point.
American history and culture inaugurated by President Obama in 2016. On Friday, Kevin Young, the director of the museum since 2021, resigned. Our next guest argues nothing about these efforts to whitewash American history nor the Trump administration's expanding crackdown on dissent and immigration should be surprising to Americans. Fordham University professor Christina Greer's latest op-ed for the New York Times is headlined, Black Americans Are Not Surprised. She writes, quote, it's frightening and disappointing, but not surprising if one knows anything about the Black experience in America, unquote. Christina Greer, thank you so much for being with us. You wrote the book, How to Build a Democracy, from Fannie Lou Hamer and Barbara Jordan to Stacey Abrams, as well as the book Black Ethnics, Race, Immigration, and the Pursuit of the American Dream. Welcome to Democracy Now! Why don't you take it from the title, from there? Black Americans are not surprised.
Thanks, Amy. Well, you know, there's just been so much hand-wringing about...
And which you shouldn't be. You know, you, Jake, you know, a lot of y'all have learned to love your enemy. You shouldn't be surprised. This is the same old blueprint. All right, and this is the prophecy. This is all this is going on. They're about to make their move. So they're, you know, kicking up the demonization and slander campaign.
How could this be happening? What's going on? This isn't the country I know. And so many Black Americans are like, this is absolutely the country we know. This is a country that's made the decades, the centuries, but there's always progress and regress in this nation. And so if we think about post-Civil War Reconstruction and the great progress that we made, and we had elected officials, Black elected officials, even in the South, and then that was a very short-lived experiment, and we had decades of brutality.
Yeah, and that's another one. You know, we actually had, you know, so-called Black politicians post-Civil War, but many of them got killed, slaughtered, and straight up chased out of the towns that they were in. You had the famous one, I forget the name of that massacre, y'all. The famous massacre is a city down south. They completely pushed us out of the city, man. Damn, I forget the name of it.
But the Jim Crow, Black military officers being lynched in their uniforms, you know, redlining, the refusal to include Black women in many of the New Deal policies, therefore the lack of generational wealth that was able to be passed down because of Black domestic workers, you know, people being fired. You know, we always joke, Good Times, the TV show, the Norman Lear TV show with John Amos, you know, his famous tagline is, you know, Florida was last hired and first fired. These are all things that Black Americans are fully aware of. Nothing that's happening right now is a shock. It's just a shock to so many white people because it's never happened to them. But what we're seeing, sadly, happen in the 21st century, so many of our parents and grandparents have told us these stories. My parents, who were very young and hip and traveled together, they went to segregated...
Yep, the older generation know. It's you new young niggas that don't know shit.
Schools. My father integrated his high school in Miami. My mother, for a century, so many of our parents and grandparents have told us these stories. My parents, who were very young and hip and traveled together, they went to segregated schools. My father integrated his high school in Miami. My mother never went to integrated schools a day in her life. You know, and these are people who are still walking among us. Ruby Bridges isn't even 70 years old. So many people have no idea who Ruby Bridges even is, right? The little Black girl who integrated Louisiana public schools. And there's been a systemic erasure of Black history consistently, book bannings consistently. So as I write in the piece, you know, we kind of jump from slavery and Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass to all of a sudden civil rights. We jump over 100 years to Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. And then all of a sudden we jump a few more decades to a post-racial Barack Obama. But there's a really, really brutal and bloody and dark history of Black people in this country at the hands of white people. Not all white people, but at the hands of enough white people to push us into a really hard conversation that we've refused to have as a nation. And because of that, so many people are hand-wringing and head-scratching at this particular moment.
So right there, she said enough, she said a lot, and that's what we're dealing with. So no one should be surprised of this treatment and of this relationship that we have. This is how things have always been. And that's a good for the next video right there, that's a good title, American Empires in Decline. This video right here, you know, they going in on the T-Man, the Tin Man. But right here, this is the history that we have with these people. There's never been peace. There will never be peace. What agreement between the hyena and the lion, right? Between the sheep and the wolf. There's never been any. So Jacob, why are you surprised that all these things are going on? You shouldn't be. All right, so the ones of our people who do not want to accept the reality that they have an enemy, they're going to find themselves swallowed up when the enemy chooses to clamp down. taking it back to that Genesis, even when we were in the womb, y'all, we were striving. Genesis 25 and 21, it says, and Isaac entreated Yahweh for his wife because she was barren, and Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. So they're like, damn, here it is, I was barren and now I'm able to get pregnant. Why are these children fighting within me? Verse 23, and Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. That's why. Because we've always had this enmity, and it is going to continue until one of us finally wins. And who is prophesied to finally win? We are. So this shouldn't be a wake-up call to those that are paying attention. Obviously, right, brothers and sisters that are watching, you should already know what the deal is. But just making those aware of this, what's going on in the atmosphere. You got a lot of people uptight on both sides of the fence, right? Jake is mad because their history is getting erased, and you got Esau mad because this and that. Everybody's just all up in the air with it, but we have the truth, so we know what's going on, and most importantly, we know why it's going on. So 2nd Ezra 6 and what? Who's gonna win? 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So their kingdom's going down, and we're about to be going up. Plain and simple, y'all. So that's it. I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachachorash, the honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all the elect Akim, Wa'akwath, learning, teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom.